One of you put a comment up asking where the hill was where I speak from a lot, because it always seems cloudy. And I have to admit, to say that June has been nice up here in Edinburgh would be a lie. But that doesn't matter, because what I've been doing is creating a whole new amazing sample library back at the shed with some of the very talented people from Spitfire who have come up here. So we've been able to lock ourselves in. My friend Harry decided to take this miserable rain and turn it into something quite, well, romantic.
Rain?
You can actually hear it pattering down on the ceiling here. And so what are we doing to create the tone?
So we're using the rain as a kind of a broadband source that we're just sending into here and basically pulling partials out of it to get down from that really kind of broadband noise down to just a single frequency or two single frequencies.
And what are partials?
Partials is basically just a fancy word for harmonics. If you have your fundamental frequency, which is the main note that you hear,
yeah,
then the partials are other static frequencies above that, which we tend to call harmonics.
Now, if you didn't have one of these spectral multiband resonator, how would you do that in a computer?
You could probably do it quite easily with a strong EQ. If you take an EQ and just give it a strong resonance or high Q,
yeah,
and pitch it around, you'd be able to pick out those frequencies in a similar kind of way. And of course, you can kind of push them into self oscillation as well, which is where you get the kind of the gnarly tone.
It's just something so organic about it.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, this unit's doing a fair amount of smoothing of the sound, but even within that, there's still that kind of granularity that you're getting. I mean, it is raining really, really hard at the moment, so it might be different if it wasn't.
And you've basically got the microphone in the hedge. So we're now listening to rain and an idiotic Englishman saying hedge. Right, so let me take you through what Harry has done. And I do think the word kind of romantic is appropriate here. I've done randomization within Modular, and I know that you can do them with computers, and whenever you do computerized or kind of electronic chaos, it always to me just sounds like a kind of machine glitching. Something about rain, the chaotic nature of nature, that I find kind of romantic about this whole process, and it sounds really good. So here's the original signal, which was recorded with an SM57. So I strongly recommend that you don't go chucking SM57s in the bin in order to do this experiment, even if SM57s are that little bit more expendable than, say, a Coles 4038. Indeed, I've included this recording below so you don't have to make the same kind of sacrifice. And then I think what Harry did was he scooped out a bit at the bottom. I think it's kind of traffic hum. So let's have a listen to that scooping. So we're getting a continuous shash of the distant rain, which is, shash is a word that I believe the post office used for a continuous tone, whether that be white, pink, noise or a sine wave or something like that. You've got this shash of the distant raindrops, then the raindrops that are close up, the individual ones that you can hear, and then the bird song, which go together once you notch out a frequency, or notch up a frequency rather, and put them through all sorts of reverbs and stuff, sound like this. He then did some more scooping. And then put on a spectral denoiser, which is working in real time. Which is pretty damn cool. And I think it's not only that kind of really romantic notion of turning rain into a granular, random oscillator. You can also turn it, using your DAW technology into more of a, she hates rain by the way, into more of an influencer. So by influencer, I mean not using it as an oscillation source, by using it to affect outcomes from other oscillation sources. So what I've done here, let me just mute all this off, is I've got the Raindrop SM57 recording here, but it's instead of going out of an output, it's going into a bus, which is actually muted. And then I'm going to use a series of side chains. So just the EXS24 sine wave, and just a bit of reverb. So then what I did is, if we have a look at this compressor, we've got the compressor listening to the sidechain. So it's not listening to the sine wave coming in, it's listening to the rain. And then we've got these ratios up really, really high, the threshold, really, really sensitive, really quick attack, really quick release. And let's have a look at what's happening when we basically just play it without playing any sine wave in whatsoever. So you're not hearing the rain, you're not hearing the sine wave, but you're just seeing the compressor be very, very reactive to these different raindrops. And basically, I duplicated those compressors 4 times, or had 4 in total rather, so that it does get very jumpy. The final thing I did is I selected a distortion, and provided I'm careful at how loud I play the sine, basically when it's kind of coming up to 0 dB, it's just knocking the distortion, so you just get a kind of an accentuation of these random elements. But I also thought it'd be interesting to play with a noise gate. So another sine wave, this one though, pitched up, I think 36 semitones, so 3 octaves. And then I've got a noise gate, again, on a side chain, again, very sensitive, with a slow attack and a slow release. So when a raindrop hits this threshold, basically it opens the gate and whatever I'm playing becomes audible. So what's kind of nice, you've got the other sine wave ducking and then coming back and hitting the distortion, and this working in the opposite direction. So when the other thing is ducking, this thing kind of peeps out like a little kind of bird, I guess. So let's have a listen to this. I don't know if it's because I know it's rain, but it's just something just feels so completely random from just a completely nature organic point of view, not from a series of integers entered into a computer or a piece of electronic equipment. So let's just have a listen to those together. So rain influencing just 2 sets of sine waves. Thanks ever so much for joining me up on this rainy hill. You'll notice there's not a soul behind me. The Scots just don't go out when it's like this. It's just nutter Englishmen like myself. Thanks as always for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. There's some really, really fascinating stuff coming up soon. Ding the bell if you want to be notified the next time I put up a video, and one of those would be much appreciated. Right, I'm going to throw vegetarianism in the bin this morning and go and have a hot mug of Bovril. Ah, gee, it's freezing too.